Yeah, after Grand Theft Auto 3, there seemed to be like loads of people trying to copy that kind of framework of the game. Was it Jack and Daxter had like a sequel where it was like GTA's to kind of open world city or area you can kind of drive around. But then some games did the same thing, but only focusing on the driving, which was the case with Driver, which I played on the PS1, and yeah, it was good. You was like going through all the kind of getaway driver film cliches. I think you're undercover trying to do stuff and you were driving, but anyway, the drive model was a little bit ropey in that kind of PS1 kind of way. It felt really soft, like all the kind of suspension was really soft. Like, you see those kind of 70s American cars that just kind of like wail around corners, and just the power play of it was like that. It was fun, but made it hard to be, accurate when you needed to be. But that wasn't the kind of mode that kind of got me. It was the film director mode. This meant that when you did like a level or something, you could go back and edit it, move the cameras around, put additional cameras in, and kind of create your own little movie. So that's basically what I do with the game. There's a mode called Survival, which was you versus all the police cars, but they were immediately like amazingly aggressive. They would just come at you straight away, so you'd have to survive as long as possible. So I put onto the San Francisco stage, which had the kind of big hills, and just drive until something cool happened, and then make a video of it. And I filled up memory cards with those, and it was just so fun being able to take this one part of a game and just make something of it, like create your own thing with it. The game was, like I said, the game was alright. It was GTA without being able to walk around, essentially. But that mode where anything, because the physics were bonkers, cars would go flying off of buildings and all sorts. So that mode really made this a really special game for me, and one that I was thoroughly impressed with. I always wanted to get into strategy RPG games. Like, I always say to myself, like, this game, this version of this game, this will be the one. And I think what kind of one of the not an early game, but like something that kind of really gave me a taste for it was Advance Wars on the Game Boy Advance. This was I think the first time this series come to the West. Like, it'd always been there. I think it'd been there since the NES days. But here you go, yeah, two armies, got tanks and dudes. There's a map, grid based, walk around, blow things up, kill the bad guys. Simple, it's a pretty simple turn-based game, like kind of rock paper scissors mechanic of like this beats that, but that beats this sort of thing. But the kind of aesthetic was nice, the kind of funky Nintendo-ness of it. Graphics were good, just a good handheld game, and like really thoroughly enjoyed it, and I played a lot of it until the game kind of just gets unfairly mean, because I think that's what these games do at some point. But they really explored the multiplayer mode of it, which would be nice, but not that many people did Game Boy Advance that I knew. But yeah, the mechanics of it, the way it played, it was cracking. It was just fit perfectly onto the system. So when I bought my PS1, I think it was the DualShock pack. Not DualShock, I'm talking about the analog. Yeah, DualShock. When they released the update to the controllers to have the twin analog sticks, which was, at that point, revelation. We'd had the N64 with one analog stick. But to kind of do, you have to have like two controllers to do anything with two analog sticks. I remember playing GoldenEye with like dual wielding N64 controllers, but here we had a pad with two sticks on it. And a game that really kind of cemented how this would work was Ape Escape, which is a daft game. It's a load of monkeys. A monkey gets a helmet that increases intelligence, and then he tries to escape. He does escape and takes all those other monkeys with him, and then you're like in true Back to the Future style teenage friend of a scientist who has to go and clean up his mess by battering monkeys with sticks and capture them in a big net. It was how that whole thing was integrated with the controller that made it work. Like, you move around one stick and swipe the other stick to batter them, and it was essentially like a big thing of like this is how this will work in the future, like laying down like this is how this is going to work for games. But it was also in a really good game, a really fun game with a really great aesthetic. Gameplay was fun. So yeah, this was a cracker, and it kind of, I mean, it didn't do like Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, that really kind of established how a 3D game controls. But this kind of opened up, Ape Escape showed how you can use two sticks to make the games a lot more appealing, a lot more fun. Yeah, this was just a really, really fun game of capturing monkeys. Now this one, another arcade game, again, it's undeniable that the cabinet is part of the appeal for this. Afterburner is that series of cracking sprite scale games that Sega did in the mid-80s. You know, you'd had Outrun and Space Harrier. I'm not sure the order of them, but obviously this was in there, and it still had the kind of the blue sky aesthetic of Outrun, only this time you're in a F-16 fighter jet shooting down bad guys with machine guns and missiles. You know, true Top Gun fashion. I think it must have been after Top Gun or around the kind of Top Gun era. But the feeling of that cabinet, of that big kind of control stick with the big buttons to fire the guns and fire the missiles. And if you're lucky enough to have one of the ones that kind of threw you around the kind of bigger hydraulic cabinets, being thrown towards that blue sky at 1,000 miles an hour whilst being rocketed from left to right and being thrown around, it was an undeniable experience. The game's hard to go back to now, like on a emulator or a home machine, because whilst it's fun, you lose that kind of visceral intensity that the cabinet gave it. So yeah, it's one to go back to, but only if you can find those kind of a proper cabinet to sit in and really kind of get that experience of that proper arcade experience. Tricky one, this. Space Invaders, which, Space Invaders, one of the kind of fundamental games that video games are built on. But this version, Space Invaders Infinity Gene, came out on the iPhone and I think the PS3, it came out on a few platforms, but it's hard to get on an iPhone anymore because it's a 32-bit app, just to get complex for a second, which means it doesn't work on newer phones. It might even be removed from the store. I'm not even sure if you can download it anymore. It's essentially gone. It might be out there for Android phones. There might be ways of playing it on the PSN if you can find like a download of it. But yeah, what it did was it kind of took that. It starts as like a basic Space Invaders game, and then the name implies, Infinity Gene, that kind of evolves it. So your ship initially is literally just like the Space Invaders screen. You move left and right, shoot aliens to them, and then you can move up and down, you can move around, the ship changes, you different guns. And it just builds and builds and builds on the aesthetic of the game until it's a proper modern shooter. But it's still tied to that kind of line vector art style aesthetic that you got from Space Invaders. So it looked cracking, it sounded amazing, the soundtrack was brilliant. There's kind of a follow-up game, I think, called Groove Coaster from a similar designer. And I wouldn't be surprised if it slotted into that kind of early, I want to say like Geometry Wars kind of style, where it's like, it's like using those vector graphics, but it's doing the vector graphics like how we remember them, like how our minds saw it at the time. But that's how they look now. And Space Invaders Infinity did a great job of that. But yeah, if you can find it, cracking. But it's a tough one to play.
Ready, go!
Snowboarding, man. Yeah, how cool was that in the 90s? Yeah, snowboarding trousers and whatever. So we'd had some cool snowboarding games. I think Cool Borders. There was the main one on the PS1, and then Nintendo come out and go, right, well, I'll do a snowboarding game. I will make it like a pretty low-key, cool one that's not exactly over the top, which is what it did. It really doesn't fit with the kind of normal Nintendo aesthetic. I mean, there's no Mario or anything crowbarred into there. It's not like it's an over-the-top kind of style of game. It's just dudes snowboarding. You can do stunts and all that kind of stuff, but it looks cracking. It looked cracking at the time. I think it still looks good. It still kind of holds up. The gameplay of it is fun. It's not that many courses from what I remember, but it's got a proper score attack vibe of just kind of going over and over and over again to kind of really kind of improve your run, improve your skills, you know, getting more stuff for your characters and that sort of thing. Yeah, so it's a bit of an outlier for that kind of period of Nintendo. I think it's them trying to grow up, in quotation marks, or doing a game that's a bit more grown up. So in that way, that's probably why it's not been brought back that many times. I think it came back on the GameCube, but they've not done it since. I guess because they're leading more into kind of Nintendo-ness side of things. But this was a good one. It was it really kind of used the analog stick. It really kind of showed that off, and yeah, it was a really good snowboarding game when they were one of the top dog the genres. Now, Road Avenger. Oh boy. Road Avenger is barely a game. Let's be honest with ourselves. It's the kind of what is it? Dragon's Lair. You know, you get like a little animation, and then you have to choose left or right or press a button or whatever. QuickTime event before QuickTime events were a thing. It's a whole game of QuickTime events. Basically, like a big car chase of you being a guy whose wife was killed by some knockoffs from Fist of the North Star. So vengeance is obviously the thing that you want to do. So if you go with your car, running things over in big car chases. And basically like loads of anime cutscenes stitched together with this press a button to brake or boost or turn left or whatever. So it doesn't really hold up, it's barely a game, but that intro, like when I got a Mega CD, I don't know why I had Road Adventure, I don't know if it came free with it or it was one of those kind of early games to show off. It was in that kind of theme of FMV games, but it was anime styled, but that opening music, like I can't not go back to that intro. I think that's the only reason why it's on there, is that intro, just that bonkers song, and the daft intro. You know, the game itself, yeah, just watch on YouTube, it probably only takes 20 minutes to go through, but Lord, what an intro. And you know, a window into a world that we quickly realised was a kind of didn't go anywhere. You know, the whole FMV game era, you know, quickly died. We kind of thought, wait a second, they're not games, but we'll always have that intro and we'll always have that song. PS3 was always it was a powerful console that could do some cracking graphics, but it also allowed developers, I think, to experiment with other styles, not just the kind of, you know, brown and grey aesthetic. I think that became the kind of tone of the Xbox 360, PS3 era. One game that really kind of pushed that was VALKYRIA Chronicles. Again, it's another strategy role-playing game, turn-based, in that kind of Japanese Europe thing that they do. This is a sidebar. It's a strange, you know, it goes all the way through their, you know, kind of Japanese pop culture, so that kind of European aesthetic. You know, it's in like a lot of Ghibli stuff. It's in like a lot of Gundam. It's like it's Japan, but it's Europe, but it's Japan sort of thing. So this is basically, you know, it's like an Austrian kind of flavoured countries at war. You're on one side, might be the goods, might be the baddies, I can't remember. Rocking up with tanks to shoot other guys. And that's basically the game of it. You know, you've got a tank. Is it one or two tanks? I can't remember now. And some infantry, so you've got to kill some dudes with, you know, guns and stuff, like kind of moving around using cover. But it's the look of the game. It's the kind of almost kind of watercolor aesthetic, that kind of pencil drawn, cell shaded style of it that just really made this game stand out. I mean, the story is pretty cliched. You know, it's all right, but you kind of know where it's going to go. But the game itself plays really well. That kind of turn-based style works really well. But the look of it, oh boy, it just looks so good. Even now, you know, it's not that old, but because of the cell shaded style, it hasn't really aged at all. So I think it's on the Switch now, so I would really thoroughly recommend this one, because it's really fun and there's not many games that look like it at all. Now this one, Ranger X, I picked up at a car boot sale, which, saying back, just seems really daft. Like, there was a period where you could get cracking Mega Drive games at a car boot sale for a decent price. This is obviously pre-internet, when people suddenly realised the value of what they own. So games like this, like, you're never going to see this at a car boot now. It's always going to be on eBay or in some kind of retro shop. But it was, it's a cracking game. It's a shoot 'em up game. You kind of, you're a robot with like a little partner dude that you can kind of ride in to hide or recharge when you get to certain areas. And it's like a, you know, kind of mid to late period Mega Drive game where they kind of like, the graphics are really good, soundtrack's really good. It's just, you know, a really great game. Like a really kind of, you know, solid action shootery game. Great look, great graphics, great animation. Yeah, this is a cracker, and it's, you know, I picked it up for buttons at a car boot sale, which, you know, will never happen again. And I can't remember what I did with it. I think I sold it at some point. Can't remember why, and I feel daft for doing it now. But yeah, Ranger X was a really good shooter on the side-scrolling shooter on the Mega Drive. Really good. Now, until a while ago, this game was really hard to recommend, because going back to play it was thoroughly difficult. It was a Windows release. I'm not sure it was a Mac release, but it was really hard to emulate. I think you go out there's all kind of stories about why it's really hard.
It looks familiar.
You know,
give me a hard copy of that.
It looks bonkers because it's using, you know, those 3D pixel voxels, I think it was, which kind of sets it apart from games of that era straight away. Plus, it's a point and shoot. It's a point and click game. You know, the kind of Monkey Island style point and click, wander around, talking to people, finding items to do stuff, all kind of wrapped up in the Blade Runner aesthetic. You know, it's a side story. I think you kind of like, as Deckard's running around, Harrison Ford's running around the film doing his stuff, you're off to one side having your own kind of adventure. Does that hang together with the film? Probably not, but it really kind of captures the aesthetic of that film. You know, you use the kind of photo thing for some of the puzzles. You do the void count tests of people.
Tyrell Corporation.
And now it's available. It's on like Good Old Games. I think they're doing like a remastered version of it soon. Yeah, it's a if you're a fan of Blade Runner like I am, it's a no-brainer, because it's more of that universe, but in a way that kind of stands up to it. Not that's kind of wrong word, but it doesn't let it down. It doesn't let the side down. It's, you know, it works within that universe. Doesn't undo too much stuff. And it's just, yeah, it's just a great point and click game, but with a great look and a good story. So yeah, this was a really good game.